Hi guys, welcome to Maybe News. Today I've made you a video about 10 historical events that changed the world, and I've put them in a chronological order. Let's get started. 10. Pax Romana. This is the period of relative peace in Roman Empire for about 200 years. What was so special about this, besides the fact that it was peace for an empire that loved to fight and in which bloodshed was part of the daily life, was what the peace brought forth. During that time, many innovations were developed that are still used today. Roads of amazing engineering were built and linked the far areas of the vast empire like none other before them. A postal system was refined and utilized like never before. An explosion in the field of engineering gave us the arch, plumbing, and so many more cultural advances that were the basis of many of the things that we use each and every day of our lives. This period of peace allowed the warring empire to settle down and adjust to its new size and all its new family members. It developed a legal system like none other. It created a culture that is envied today in many aspects. This peace helped lay down the foundations of our world today. 9. The life of Jesus of Nazareth. Whether you're a Christian or not, you cannot honestly say that the life of Jesus of Nazareth did not dramatically impact history. If you follow the dating system that we use today, you acknowledge his impact. This video is published in 2020 AD because approximately 2020 years ago, Jesus lived in Israel. At the time of his life, it might not have seemed so dramatic to the world at large. He never traveled more than a few days' journey from his hometown. It was only after he left Earth that his teaching spread beyond his homeland and began to cause trouble for the ruling power of the time, Rome. When Roman rulers began to persecute the followers of Jesus, that is, Christians today, his life really began to ripple out around the globe. Over time, Christianity was accepted by the Roman rulers, which allowed it to spread even further. Today, Christianity is one of the largest religions of the world. Jesus set off an atomic religious bomb that is still felt today. 8. The life of Muhammad. Just like the life of Jesus, whether you are a follower of Muhammad or not, you cannot deny the impact his life has had on history. Before Muhammad rose up as the founder of Islam, the Middle East was full of small tribes that warred against each other continuously. Muhammad brought those tribes together and gave them a purpose and a reason to join forces. Though blood was still shed, it was not against each other. It was against those who threatened the new religion or fought against it. After Muhammad brought together the Middle East, the region experienced the Islamic Golden Age from 786 to 1258 AD. The religion's culture flourished and made many advances in fields including mathematics and science. The world benefited from Muslims' discovery of the immune system, preservation of Roman and Greek texts, and invention of the number zero, the decimal system, and algebra. Even coffee was discovered during the Islamic Golden Age. 7. The Black Death in Western Europe. The Black Death, which was rampant during the 13th century, was one of the most devastating pandemics in the history of mankind in Europe between 1347 and 1350, and killing around 200 million people. That means that Black Death killed something between 50 to 60% of the entire population of Europe at the time. Black Death is thought to have started in China and then traveled along the Silk Road and reached the Crimea by 1346. The pandemic was one of those few moments in history that created a series of social, religious, and economic upheavals which had profound impact on the course of European history. 6. Gutenbergs printing press. There is almost no other event that could be called as influential as the printing press that Gutenberg invented around 1440. Before this monumental creation, books were copied by hand. Laboriously, monks and other men of learning would spend hours and hours through the bright sunlight and the weak light of an oil lamp to make copies of the religious texts, literature, and official documents. It could take years just to copy one book. When Gutenberg devised a printing press that could print copy after copy in just a small fraction of the time, the whole world changed dramatically. All of a sudden, everyone could have their own copies of the religious scriptures. They could read them for themselves. Political pamphlets could be made by the thousands and influence the masses like never before. Learning was not limited to a select few. It was available for all. Books were not just for the rich. They could be made for those of lower classes. Gutenberg's press changed the political world, the religious world, and the everyday life of men. 5. The Fall of Constantinople. The fall of Constantinople came after a 53-day siege by then the 21-year-old Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, who fittingly took the title Mehmed the Conqueror. Constantinople was not just any city. It was the preeminent city in the world and had been an imperial capital for 16 centuries. It had been the capital of the Roman Empire since 330 AD. The fall of the city was considered a massive boom to Islam and a blow to Christendom. The conquest of Constantinople heralded not just the collapse of the Byzantine Empire, and thus the final end of the Roman Empire after 1,500 years, and the rise of the Ottoman Empire, but also marked the end of the Middle Ages. Constantinople was renamed Istanbul and became the capital of Turkey until 1923. 4. The Renaissance. Nothing can compare to the age of the Renaissance. Ignorance was being pushed aside, and the world was beginning to see the mathematics of a falling apple, the sparkle of a dewdrop, and the wonder of a distant star. It was during this time that great men and women questioned tradition and standing beliefs. People learned that there was still a lot to learn in this great world. The Earth was not the center of the universe. There were planets besides our own. There was a world of mathematics that had functioned just under the surface where no man had yet looked. There was beauty in colors that art began to acknowledge and share with the world. The Renaissance gave us a new light, pushing aside the Dark Ages when man was directed by superstition and fear. The Renaissance gave us the unexplainable, a face and a name. There would be no more fear. Curiosity was encouraged, despite opposition from those that longed to remain in the past. The Renaissance was an awakening to the world, and was the beginning of all our curiosity today. 3. Protestant Reformation. The Reformation between 1517 and 1648 was one of the greatest events in European history. Prior to this period, the Roman Catholic Church had close to absolute control over the people and governments of the Christian world. The Reformation led to the split between Protestants and Catholics, the Catholic Church losing its monopoly on religion and the implementation of Protestant reforms. In a larger historical sense, the Reformation was important to the struggle against feudalism. Intellect and culture were freed from Catholic domination, and the subordination of the Church to the state led to the age of the science and secularism. Reformers moving to the New World would have enormous influence on the founding of the United States. Neither the Age of Enlightenment nor the Industrial Revolution would have been possible without the Protestant Reformation. The Reformation gave us free thought while holding us down to the basics of life. 2. The American Revolution. To many, this event was too localized to be considered part of a list that involves all history. Yet, the shockwaves from this event are still felt today. The American Revolution between 1775 and 1783 took many ideas from the early civilizations of Greece and Rome and combined them with the Christian Bible to revolt against an authority that was unbending. They believed that every man, though at the time even that statement was narrowly defined, was equal and should be treated fairly. Only when the men and women of the New World rose up together was there a solid foundation for the beginning of a nation that in our modern world influences much around the globe. When an election is held in the United States, the world watches. So we can fairly say that revolution began one of the greatest events in our history. 1. The colonialism. The historical effects of the colonial period stretch across centuries and across all the continents of the world. From the 16th century onward, several European powers set up colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The Spanish and Portuguese were first global empires, followed closely by the British, French, Dutch, and Russian empires, and eventually by Belgium, Germany, and Italy. The age of colonialism resulted in the division of the world between them, and the exploitation of the countries in the Third World. On many continents, colonialism caused changes in culture, language, society, and economics. Anti-colonialist movements picked up steam after 2 world wars, and many of these countries would gain their independence. But the colonial period didn't officially end until Portugal transferred Macau to China in 1999. And that's all for today. Thanks guys for watching, and see you in the next episode.